Right now on KGW, frosty cold weather every morning this week as winds set the stage for some bitterly cold nights ahead. Plus the warning from Clark County after spikes show up on the streets of Yakult. But first,
we know that they're spending millions and millions, and Oregonians have a right to know that.
The new legislation that may soon force hospitals to publicly disclose what they're paying replacement staff amid the largest hospital strike in Oregon history. And later we take a look at the longest running African film festival in the U.S., bringing African stories to the big screen. Your News at Noon starts right now. And we start with a live look over the Rose City this afternoon. Look at that sunshine, but the cold weather is going to be sticking around for the rest of the week. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ashley Grams. KGW has issued a weather impact alert for later this week. That's for Thursday and Friday. So let's get right to meteorologist Chris McGinnis with a look at the forecast. Chris?
Let's start with that, right? Thursday, Friday, that's got a high interest now with the indication of possibly some wintry weather coming our way. This is a quick snapshot of the European model. Thursday afternoon into Friday, that is snow. Possibly here in Portland. I'm going to walk you through more details on this coming up in a few minutes. But first, the precursor to that, which is the incoming cold weather. Cold nights in our forecast this week, frosty mornings, and a gusty gorge wind developing as well. As that cold air comes in, the east winds are really going to start whipping through the Columbia River Gorge. Light winds out there right now. It's 36 in the Dalles. We'll take you to the Oregon coast. It was cold this morning in Newport, waking up to upper 20s and 30s there. It's 43 there now under a partly cloudy sky. And downtown Portland, likewise, partly cloudy at 40 degrees after a start this morning in the upper 20s to about 30. 43 right now in Tigard. Wilsonville still hanging out in the 30s, as is Salem. The central and southern Willamette Valley are still somewhat socked in with some fog this morning. That should begin to erode and clear as we go through the remainder of our days to reveal partly sunny conditions down there. Here in the metro area, we hang out in the low 40s, sunset now 5:32. Some clouds come in probably after sunset. That'll be kind of the leading edge of that next shot of cold air, which will be setting up shop here overnight tonight. So with that in mind, a cold weather advisory in effect for western Oregon and Washington west of the Cascades for temperatures or wind chills at 25 or colder overnight tonight. I'm going to walk you through that. And of course, that chance for snow later this week coming up with our 7-day forecast in just a few minutes. Ashley?
We'll check back in. Thank you, Chris. And because of those cold temperatures, Multnomah County has declared a state of emergency that will go into effect at 6 tonight. It'll allow the county to open 3 severe weather shelters. They're at Cook Plaza in Gresham, the Hollywood Shelter in Northeast Portland, and the Northwest 14th Avenue Shelter. Along with nonprofits and other groups, the Joint Office of Homeless Services will also check in on homeless people and hand out supplies. And Washington County has opened its own severe weather shelters. That includes the Blanton Street building in Aloha and the Beaverton Community Center on Southwest 5th. No one will be turned away and hot meals will be provided. The county says it will monitor conditions to decide how long to keep those shelters open. And in Salem, lawmakers are hearing a new bill that would force hospitals to disclose how much they're spending on replacement workers during a strike or a lockout. Meanwhile, Providence nurses are now on strike for a 5th week. Doctors at St. Vincent Hospital did vote yes on their new contract over the weekend, but they say they'll remain on the picket line until nurses at St. V's have come to terms with Providence. KGW's Catherine Cook has the latest.
Elated, excited, and relieved, I think.
Reaction from St. Vincent physicians after union members voted unanimously to ratify a new contract with Providence Medical Group. It ends their strike, but not their solidarity with nurses.
The real story is that the nurses still do not have a contract.
And so these physicians say they'll continue picketing every day until they do.
We fully support them in getting what they're due and what they deserve, and kind of respect for the profession that they hold and the key role that they play in caring for the community.
Physicians say their biggest contract win is protection against subcontracting, meaning Providence can't fire them to hire cheaper labor.
We've seen them doing that to other groups in the system, and we didn't want that to happen to us. They said that they could never give that to us, and then one day they could. So we were very pleased about that, and we hope they have the same change of heart with the nurses as well.
Amid ongoing negotiations, Providence says they'll explore next steps with each bargaining unit and federal mediators. In the meantime, replacement nurses continue filling in. New legislation may soon force hospitals to publicly disclose what they're paying replacement staff.
We know that they're spending millions and millions, and Oregonians have a right to know that.
That bill will be presented at a public hearing on Monday in the House Committee of Labor and Workplace Standards.
We hope that we're the start of a movement where we're wresting control from kind of money-minded interest in the practice and delivery of medicine. And these bills are a way to kind of help the public know what's out there.
Catherine Cook, KGW News.
Providence officials tell us they stand by their offers, calling them market competitive, noting they include a 20% wage increase over a 3-year contract. They say ONA's actions have guaranteed a longer strike for its members. And more than 2,000 nurses at 3 other Portland hospitals voted to join the Oregon Nurses Association labor union. Those hospitals are Legacy, Emmanuel, Randall Children's, and Good Samaritan. Nurses there will now create bargaining teams and start negotiating their first union contracts as part of ONA.
The last couple nights with the vote counts, it was, the pulse in the room was just electric. It was so exciting watching all of those yeses roll in for that near unanimous vote.
This is going to lead to nurses who have more and better resources to take care of their patients. The community is going to feel that.
A spokesperson from Legacy Health sent us a statement reading in part, quote, "Legacy Health respects the rights of our employees to choose whether or not to be represented by a union. And coming up tonight on the latest episode of Straight Talk, Stephanie Domerat sits down with labor experts to talk about the increase in strikes nationwide over the last 2 decades. Everything from historical trends to how the new Trump administration influences collective action. Straight Talk airs tonight at 7. You can watch right here on KGW or anytime on our streaming app, KGW+. And in Clark County, officials are warning people about spikes. You see the picture there on your screen. They're showing up on the streets in Yacolt. This photo shows what they look like. The town says it received 3 reports about them last week on East Hubbard, Worthington, and East Jones. You can see how the spikes have swastikas drawn on them along with the word Kent. Of course, you have to consider a potential reference to Republican politician Joe Kent, who lives in Yacolt. Anyone who finds one of these spikes is asked to carefully pick it up and turn it into City Hall. This next story out of Deschutes County, where deputies arrested a man wanted for assault. Investigators say the suspect ran from authorities for about 3 miles in the snow while barefoot before a resident turned him in to the county's SWAT team. That resident learned about the suspect through Deschutes alerts, which went out to people in the area. Palestine to Mexico. These border walls have got to go. Demonstrators gathered outside Portland City Hall yesterday for an Abolish ICE protest. On Friday, Mayor Keith Wilson announced the city is joining a lawsuit against the federal government over the Trump administration's threats to sanctuary cities like Portland. Mayor Wilson said the city is not trying to ignore federal law. Instead, he says he wants Portland police to focus on local problems.
We object to the federal government's attempt to defund public safety, infrastructure, and critical services in our city. Portland is committed to upholding both state laws and our values. We are prepared to make our case in court and ensure that our city remains a sanctuary for all community members.
Now, last week, the U.S. Department of Justice sued both the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, alleging their local policies prevent federal authorities from enforcing immigration laws. And hundreds of people rallied outside of Seattle Children's Hospital over the weekend, protesting its decision to suspend gender-affirming surgeries for transgender youth. The hospital's decision came after President Donald Trump issued an executive order titled Protecting Children from Chemical and Surgical Mutilation, which bans gender-affirming care for minors. On Friday, Oregon and Washington both filed a lawsuit over that executive order, which also ends federal funding for institutions that provide such surgeries. The lawsuit seeks a temporary restraining order to pause the president's directive. And it's been over a week since the deadly mid-air crash between an American Airlines flight and an Army Black Hawk helicopter near D.C. 67 people died. Out of the 64 people on board the commercial flight, nearly half of them were part of the figure skating community. Several local skaters took a moment of silence yesterday in their honor.
It's definitely important to remember them. You never want to forget the people who grown your sport. We're going to remember them when we jump, when we spin, when we skate.
Now, a family support fund has been created by U.S. Figure Skating for people to donate to help figure skating families that were impacted by the tragedy. We do have a link to that up on KGW.com. TriMet says it will be expanding its HOP transit card machines beyond the original 5 machines to the entire service area. The new machines make purchasing and reloading HOP fare cards easier for riders, allowing them to buy and reload plastic HOP cards instead of single-use day tickets. TriMet says over the next few months, ticket vending machines will be removed, and the new HOP Fast Pass machines will take their place.